Hello, everyone, and welcome to What to See with Val. I'm Val, and today I'm excited because we are headed towards the end of the Sundance Film Festival, and we are talking about a very, very powerful short film today for the Sundance Spotlight. And I have two just amazing filmmakers with me, and I have to say that after I watched the film, I did the Google, like I Googled you guys to see what else I could see.
You didn't see a lot. You didn't see a lot.
I wanted to see more. So I have Victor, you're the writer-director of this amazing film, and Duran, you're the producer. So tell us a little bit about this project.
Well, it started out with a feature script that I wrote a while ago, in 2020, and me and Duran actually went to AFI, and I was a year above him, and it was a script that I needed notes for. Duran read it, was like, "Hey, bro, can we work on this together?" And then we're like, "Sure." And then I got reps from it, got my manager and agent from it. And then we just, as a team, was like, well, you need to do a proof of concept short film if you want to direct this feature. And then that's where Hallelujah came from in terms of like logistically what happened. And in terms of, I think you asked this question, or am I tripping? I have ADHD. So in my head, you asked me a question that I'm about to answer. I'm not sure you asked me like this question, but I'm just going to answer it and you can tell me if I'm off. But in terms of where it came from, also just thematically, I've experienced like a lot of loss in my life, a lot of death, some gang violence, and just I grew up really poor. And I think a lot of the traumatic things I've seen, I just tend to laugh at. That's like the odd thing about me, is I think the things that are like really, really, really dark, I just tend to find a lot of humor in. And typically I think most would argue that humor is a way to deflect and to avoid, and it can be. Sarcasm and humor can be a way to not deal with something and deep. But I think there's an other side to humor, which it actually brings me closer to my trauma and actually brings me closer to like human connection. And I actually understand what I went through even in more deeper ways when I'm laughing at it. You know, I talk about it easier. I actually like reflect on it. It like opens up all sorts of avenues. And so for me, that's sort of like what I do. And I wanted to include the innocence of childhood, the darkness, and just how funny, unfortunately, how funny things are that are dark. Yeah.
Yeah, and I have to say that comes across very quickly in the short as we get introduced to the character Hallelujah. And I have to say, the minute I saw him, he reminded me a little bit of my daughter at that age, because in my family, when we call each other weirdos, like that is a term of endearment. Right. And I remember her walking around the backyard with goggles on and like a towel for a cape, right? Yeah. Because we're weird nerds in my house. So, and and as a kid, you just do what you need to do. My grandmother passed away, you know, when she was 11 and almost 10 years ago. And so you kind of go into, you know, whatever mode makes you feel comfortable. And so seeing this right away, like I just related to it immediately because, you know, I got to see how someone would mourn through a child's eyes, which really helped me as an adult. And I think that's what happened in this film as well, because you've got Hallelujah, you've got his sister, who I just have to say, like, I watched and rewound the picture of her face as she sits down on the lawn with him and makes the faces, but then that smile, that is just like the smile of hope, like, you know what? We're going to be okay. You and me, we're going to be okay. So, you know, so we've got this weird kid right off the bat, and I'm like, okay, I already love this. and we don't quite know what's going on, right? We've got these two men, we've got these kids, and it's just kind of a little bit of chaos. So tell us a little bit about this scene of chaos that you open up with.
Right. Well, I love. First of all, thank you for that question. I love these questions, by the way. It's so specific.
Thank you.
I love when people ask me specific questions about scenes. Yeah, because I get to be a little nerd myself. Well, in the beginning, he is. I myself have a strong nerdy streak in me, and so, I read a lot of books when I was a kid, and I think that you're right. I think kids grieving is always weird. I think everyone grieves in odd ways. Typically, is what I see. I see people grieve in different ways. Most people don't break down crying. Some do, but a lot of people just might. Who knows? And so in the beginning, when we see him, the uncles just don't know. The uncles are just not paying attention. They're just like, we don't want to do this. Like we don't want to take care of no kids. And because they're like stuck and they're like, I don't want to do this. Like they're being a bit selfish, right? I don't want to do this. They're not paying attention. They're just like, oh, he's being a weirdo, like he always is. And so they don't know that he's just
they're probably scared because they're not used to having to have keep an eye on the kid, be the responsible one.
Yeah, that's be responsible. They don't know what he's doing. They kind of know he's already a weirdo. So like, oh, he's doing this thing, but they don't actually know what he's doing. And so when he's walking back and forth, he's just processing like, well, I'm getting out of here, I'm getting out of here. And or, probably little tension seeking. And so in the beginning when that happens and he attempts to, what happens in the scene, everyone, is that, he attempts to hang himself with a garden hose, but doesn't work. And so he falls down. Then it launches into the next part where Uncle's like, what the fuck is going on? Like, Dad, like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? But it shocks them. One, why are you trying to kill yourself? Two, they're like, this didn't work. and three, Black people don't kill ourselves. Like, we don't do suicide. It's not true, which is what the little boy is trying to argue.
It's very not true.
It's very not true. But it's it's a very old, traditional, Black way of thinking about we don't do therapy, we don't commit suicide, we don't blah blah blah, we don't do all these things, but we in fact do. So I think the little nerdy boy, the little Hallelujah, is arguing for the opposite. Like, no, statistics say something different, and also I don't think anything's wrong with suicide. So and he's having a tantrum and throwing things around and stuff. So
I think culturally that was as I'm watching the scene, I was like they're going there. I'm watching it and I'm like, they're going to touch on a lot of things here that are very important very quickly, but at the same time. So the statistics are one thing, but also I think as males, you know, as Black males, also as males, you don't talk about your feelings. You got to be strong. You got to be the protector. You got to be the caregiver. You've got to be the person that makes everything okay. And in this moment, these two men are not okay. The kids, well, at least Hallelujah is not okay. But he's trying to, I think, say something. I think, and maybe I'm totally wrong with this and I'm looking too far into it. I think he is a really smart kid. And I think he knew that wasn't going to work. But he is trying to say something, I love it. When he said it's a viable option. Kids don't use that word. So for me, I'm thinking this is a smart kid. This is a kid where, he mentions his dad in his dad's favorite book. They had a lot of conversations together. He passed on these thoughts to him, this open-mindedness to him that these other two men don't have. So trying to break this, the stuff that's always been happening. I think in my mind, I think he knew that hose was not going to work. I think he was trying to say something. I also think when he said viable option for suicide, I don't think necessarily, in my mind, this is how I saw it again, that it had to do with his parents passing away, but in the situation that they're in on how their parents passed away. They live in this area where this happens all the time. So I can either be killed in the same situation, unfortunately, that my parents were, that was totally just random, and it didn't need to happen, but that's what happens in his world every day. So either I have control over this situation because it's a viable option, or I do something else. And so I think that really woke them up. It woke me up. I was like, well, damn. I was like, this kid is smart. He, it's, every day we get these situations that come to us, and we can either take control of the situation, or we can let the situation control us. And I think,
100%.
you know, in that neighborhood, I'm sure it's something that growing up you had to think about a lot too. Like, do I just go with the flow of the situation and end up over here? Or do I take control of myself, go to film school, tell the stories that were told to me so that we can break these patterns, you know? So maybe I'm jumping too deep in there, but that's what I got.
As deep as you want to. Listen, I'll be honest with you. Just as a conversation, I love it because, you know, they always say art's for who it stops being yours once you put it out there, you know. So for me, just a conversation is dope because I think I've never thought that once you start writing something and putting it out there, it takes its own life. It does its own thing that's sort of outside of you. And I think that all of that can be true and actually even helps me more. I think sometimes when I write, sometimes I'm not always as aware of the things that are happening. I sort of move very intuitively and write very intuitively when it comes to characters because I was a therapist. So I move very like viscerally. And sometimes when you move very viscerally and intuitively, I'm not always thinking about, I think this, that, this, then a third, because sometimes that can like mess things up
Yeah.
when you're trying to do something. Yeah. So when I hear you say that, I'm like, huh, that's interesting. I think my thought was he's 100% smart. He's 100% smart. And I think on some level, he probably knows that, like, man, I mean, maybe it work, maybe it doesn't. I think he thinks, maybe I'm down. I'm down to go. Yeah, who knows if it works or not, but I'm down to go. You know what I'm saying? Maybe there's a little attention seeking in there. I think I've worked with kids who are like suicidal, and it's always like, if they're not like actively suicidal, by actively suicidal, they come to a point like it doesn't really matter what you say. Like, I'm out of here. Right?
Yeah.
Someone who's like a bit more like passively suicidal or something like that has like multiple motivations for why they're doing something, you know.
Going through, how do I deal with this? And I really like to see all, you know, that whole journey and in such a short amount of time. Now, Duran, you know, when he came to you with this project and you're reading the script and it's supposed to be a feature, but you know, you've got to make it into this short. Did you think that such a powerful story could be told in such a short amount of time? Because I know filmmakers that can make a 3-hour movie that I'm like, it still doesn't make sense, right? Like,
yeah.
You need to, you know, but then with shorts, you know, it's kind of hit and miss whether, you know, that message gets across in such a powerful way. So what did you think about this? What were your thoughts?
I mean, I think I thought about it maybe for like a half a second, but I think, you know, Vic and I are both passionate people, and that's why I enjoy these interviews so much, because a lot of what you all are discussing now, like once we decided to do this, we didn't have a whole lot of time to sit and talk these things through. Like we were talking as things came up, but you know, I allowed the process of writing and crafting it to be his. You know, when he got to a place where he felt like, all right, I want to share this with you. What do you think? That's when I would chime in, you know? So it wasn't like me actively trying to put my hands in it and figure out how it could actually be molded. It was more of, all right, what's the story you want to tell? What are you trying to say? Is this kid smart enough to do this? Would he go about it this way? Does he really want to do this? Like we had those conversations just on a logistical part. But I think overall, the thing that I always harp on with any story is, what do we want people to take away from it? And if a project is void of that for me, I'm just not interested, you know. But I think for Vic, he had a very clear intention, even if it's not always in the front of your brain, right? Like he says, he writes very intuitively. So as these things come on, there are things that come out of you that you're not even aware come out of you. But that's what I felt when I read the feature script, and it's what I felt when we did the short. You know, he has a very honest way. He is a therapist, but I think writing is a part of his therapy, you know, and I think there are things that come out of him on the page that just feel very human and very real. Like there's no character that I've ever read from him that I'm like, I don't know that person, you know? So it's a very lived in piece. And I think that's what I wanted to focus on, was how do we make that actually a reality on film?
I love it. So is the feature going to happen? Is that something that you guys are working on now?
Yeah, has to happen. Has to happen.
Nice.
That's the whole point. So yeah, we're talking to a couple of people now about getting that part made. We have the script. We've been shopping around. We have some other work to do on it as well. But all in all, yeah, it's coming. Definitely.
Well, I'm excited to see. I mean, because the story to me is full and complete. I mean, I want to know more about the characters. Obviously, you know, I want to know about their parents, because, you know, I feel just from the short amount of time that these kids are very heavily influenced by their parents. Their parents are very present in their lives,
Right.
which we don't see a lot of these days. You know, like we live in a world now where we're all over the place, right?
Right.
And so, you know, having parents that are present in their lives, obviously these kids are smart. Obviously, these brothers, they feel like, you know, they make a comment that, you know, they brought them in when they were at their lowest. They took care of them, and you know, that's family. That's what we do.
Right.
And now what do? You know, because they've got to be the caretakers. But I have to say, I'm going to bring it over to a funny moment in the film when they're arguing about cereal, because they're arguing between Frosted Flakes. And in Utah, I'm not a native Utahn, but I've lived here long enough that I can say I am from Utah now. We do something different with Frosted Flakes here. We make something called funeral potatoes that I had never eaten until I moved here. Funeral potatoes, and they put Frosted Flakes on the top of these funeral potatoes that are mixed in with like cheese and that kind of stuff for the crunch. And so I wanted to interject in the conversation. I'm like, wait, I gotta say yes. I'm with the Frosted Flakes. Let me give you one more thing you can do with this cereal. Again, just relatable moments. I think as family members, we all have, you know, just those moments. It's a totally random moment in the day, and then right after that random moment, their lives change forever. Which I think in life, that's it. Like, you don't see it coming most of the time. You don't, you know, plan it out. You know, with my mother, we did see it coming because it was cancer, but you know, it's most people, they don't have that luxury of knowing. And so now for the rest of their lives, in my mind, you know, they're always going to pour that bowl and think of that family member, whether it's a good memory or bad memory, or a mixture of both or whatever. And so that's kind of what we all grab onto, is that moment and those weird things that we have a smell, or we hear a song, or we eat a bowl of cereal, and, you know, they're with us. So, you know, it was just a great moment. So I don't know if you guys have comments on that moment.
No, other than I almost called the short cornflakes. So I did. I almost called it cornflakes. So it's just funny. It's just funny when you say that. But yeah, I think the thing that scene was actually very difficult for a lot of reasons. And every time I see that scene, I'm actually very frustrated. I have a hard time actually watching this short for me. Like, just all I see is flaws. You dig? So, but really, it's what you said, is like mundane conversations that happen in family. It's like people and friends talk about all types of just regular stuff, right? And I just wanted that to be like, oh yeah, this is. I want to communicate intimacy and connection, and I thought that arguing about cereal is a great way to communicate. Like, oh yeah, these people are family who argue, who argue about it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So.
And to that point, like a couple of Vic's friends helped us out. Spice and Blanchard helped us out on set, and they literally had that argument on set. Like, they were talking about cereal, like, for a little bit of time. Like, and it comes from a real place. So yeah. But I don't think we weren't thinking about funeral potatoes, but I don't think I'm gonna be able to stop thinking about them now.
That's
all
crazy.
Right. I'll send you guys a recipe.
That's crazy.
They're delicious. So I just wanted to say, like, this, I had, as a film critic, I have to watch a lot of films, and in Sundance, I think being home and not being up there, like, I just, you know, I'm like, I'm home. I'm sitting in bed. I actually had Corona the whole time. I'm just getting over coronavirus. So I'm in my bed. I've got my bowls of cereal. I'm watching films. And I think I just ingested way more films than I could have if, you know, I was up there, which was great. The content was great. It was so easy. And then, you know, I didn't even know that I was going to get to watch any shorts. And then I got sent the links like, hey, you guys as press can watch all these shorts.
Right.
So I picked 5 and this was one of them. Because I was so drawn in by the story and how powerful the story could be. And then when I watched it twice, and I will watch it again, honestly, because there's so many intricate details that lead you through the story. I mean, you know, to what's in the yard, to the slide. I mean, as a parent, like I was just like that push around that slide. Like you know, we all have the kid. He like, you know, that slide to me. I'm like, somebody put it in the ground. I was like, you know, but there all these intricate moments to everything that's in the front yard, because it takes place just really in the front yard and the backyard.
Yeah.
But it's so powerful in those 2 places. So to get to see a full length of this film, I am very excited. It doesn't always happen that a piece makes me so happy. And, you know, it didn't make me sad. It just made me excited to have a conversation, which I think is why we all love films, right?
Right.
Is that they spark that conversation. And I think so many conversations came out of just this short amount of time that the full length feature, I think, will cause a lot more. So I'm very excited for you guys. Congratulations.
Thank you.
On this film. I look forward to see what's coming up next for you and to see this full length. So I hope I get a copy.
For sure.
I hope you guys.
Next time will come.
Yes, I hope you guys enjoyed our chat today. Please keep the conversation going. You can put comments here in the links. I will put all of the links to their social media, to the film, everything that you can find out about Hallelujah and these filmmakers in the comments here. Make sure you guys share it. And to you guys, thank you so much and enjoy the rest of Sundance.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us, Mel. Appreciate it.